parents for the things that we wanted. We realized at some point, I guess, in our childhood that the more we persisted and bothered our parents, the more they would eventually acquiesce to what we were wanting. For instance, I remember we used to take basically 2 or 3 vacations, rotate vacations. We'd go to the coast. Sometimes we would go to San Francisco because my 2 aunts lived there with our cousins, or we would go to Disneyland. That was the choice that we had. And I remember one year, the rotation was that we were going to go see my aunts, and my brothers and I just did not want to do that. We didn't like them. So we bothered our parents so much about going to Disneyland. Finally, they said, fine, let's still go to Disneyland. So our strategy worked as kids, being bothersome. In the gospel today, Jesus talks about the power of prayer, especially persistent, or I think the better word would be ongoing prayer. The parable of the man who reluctantly gets up in the night to give his neighbor some bread tells us that persistence does pay off. And of course, Jesus is talking about how we should feel free to speak to God and to approach our loving God for whatever it is we need. How many of us have prayed continuously, for instance, for someone who is sick? We pray over and over again for that person, that God will bring that person healing. How many of us have prayed over a prolonged period of time for a family member who's unemployed, or someone that we know needs to find a job? Or how many people have prayed for years sometimes about the healing of their marriage, maybe the marriage relationship? But we also have to be honest and say that it does seem that God doesn't always answer our prayers, even if we are persistent. We're not sure why it seems to be that way, but we believe that God hears all prayers and that he already knows the desires of our heart. Yet for some reason, he may choose to let us continue in prayer over time, probably in order to strengthen us in some way. The fact is, we pray because it's good to pray, not because we want some immediate results. Like children who repeatedly ask their parents for what they need or want, we have to be childlike enough to talk with God regularly about our needs. And in the process of praying regularly, we learn something about ourselves and what we really need. We learn dependency on God's providence, and we will come through persistent prayer to accept his will. But this is not an easy thing because we are all like spoiled children, like me and my brothers were. We can grow angry or frustrated if we think that God is not answering us. So if anything, our persistence in prayer helps us grow, helps us to be patient with God's will, helps us to mature as children of God. So we keep asking, we keep seeking, we keep knocking. In God's good time, all of our prayers will bring eternal results.